Good morning to all. Students, welcome back to the lecture video of English literature. And today I am going to teach the chapter A Visit to Cambridge, taken from the book Honeydew. So here I am going to start a new chapter by the name A Visit to Cambridge. Okay. So here in this chapter there are two main characters. They are Firdaus Kanga and Stephen Hawking. Fine. So here we all know that Stephen Hawking is a scientist, is a great scientist, whereas Firdaus Kanga is the writer. Fine. So now let's begin. A Visit to Cambridge by Firdaus Kanga begins with him taking a walking tour through Cambridge. Okay, so in the beginning of the chapter, Firdaus Kanga is seen taking a walking tour through Cambridge. That means he is now at Cambridge. During his tour, his guide mentioned that the famous astrophysicist Stephen Hawking lived there. Okay, so while he was taking a tour, his guide means Firdaus' guide. Firdaus Kanga's guide mentioned that the famous astrophysicist means the person, or you can say scientist, who deals with the nature of physics. Fine. So who was he? He was Stephen Hawking. So Stephen Hawking lived there. उन्होंने ये बताया कि यहाँ Stephen Hawking भी रहते हैं. The author had completely forgotten about this, and just as his tour ended, he went to a phone booth to contact him. Okay, so he had completely forgotten about Stephen Hawking. Fine. And as he completed his tour, he had completed all his work, he went straight away to the phone booth to contact him. Okay, because in earlier time there were no cell phones, there were no mobile phones, and there were only landlines. So what they had to do? They had to go to the telephone booth in order to make a call. So similarly, even Firdaus Kanga, he had gone to the phone booth to contact him. That means to call Stephen Hawking. Okay. Sorry, this. Yes. Then when he called, he was able to talk to Hawking's assistant and explain to him that he had come all the way from India on a wheelchair. So when he made a call to Stephen Hawking, it was not Stephen Hawking who received the call, but his assistant. That means it was his assistant who received the call, and he denied his meeting. Okay, he denied meeting with Stephen Hawking, but Kanga convinced him by telling that he had come all the way from India on a wheelchair. That means वो पूरे रास्ते कहाँ से उठकर आया है? From India. कैसे आया है? On a wheelchair. So why was the assistant of Hawking denying the meeting of these two people? It was because Stephen Hawking was a scientist. Okay, he was really a very great man. So this highly qualified people, or you can say popular people, or these special people, they have very less time to give their time or to spend their time on common people. So this was the reason why his assistant denied his meeting. But when he learned that Mr. Kanga is a differently abled person, is a differently abled man, and he had come all the way from India on a wheelchair, he understood that he must be something special, and then he allowed him to meet Stephen Hawking. Clear? The assistant allowed him half an hour with the scientist from 3:30 to 4. Then at last the assistant, he allowed Kanga to meet Stephen Hawking only for half an hour. That means from 3:30 till 4 in the afternoon. Clear? Now, it was already time, so Mr. Kanga, he went and he approached to Stephen Hawking, and then they meet. Okay, they met together and they had a talk. So when they had a talk, they had many talks about many things, and out of that some important word that, let's see, what were they? The writer mentions how people often ask differently abled people to cheer up as if they have a courage account they are too lazy to draw a check on. Okay. Now see here, what is the thing that they are discussing among themselves. Okay. See here. The writer mentions there how people often ask differently able people to cheer up as if they have a courage account they are too lazy to draw a check on. Now see here, each one of us, we have got bank account. Okay, you must not be having, but your parents, they must be having. So what do we do in the bank? We go and deposit money. Yes or no? So when we are in requirement of money, what do? We draw money from the bank. Okay. So what do we deposit in the bank? It is money. That means those money belongs to us and it is for us, for our use. We can withdraw it anytime we need. In the same way, the both of them, they discuss that the people ask very oftenly, very easily they ask differently able people to cheer up. Okay, they said, okay, come on, nothing is going to happen, just cheer up, kuch nahi hua, chalo utho, haso. Okay, they are telling so easily as if these differently abled people, they are having a courage account, but they are very lazy to draw the courage from the account. आई बात समझ में? That means for them, they feel that we normal people used to feel that they must be having a courage account, but they are not drawing any courage from that account. Fine? Okay, next. He feels the only thing that can make you stronger is seeing someone like you achieve something great. Okay, and then he told that for us, the commitment of the people, when the people comment that cheer up, this is not sufficient. What actually cheers us up is that to see someone who is disabled like us but has achieved something great. Then we feel the courage, then we feel the ability to do something, then we can realize our inner strength that if such people, differently able people, when they can do something good or they can achieve success, then why not we? Fine? Okay, next. Stephen Hawking told them that he hadn't been brave and this was the only choice he had. Okay, so Stephen Hawking narrated that he hadn't been brave, he was never brave enough and this was his choice. Although, jabki, the writer is of a conflicting view, whereas the writer was of a conflicting view. That means he was completely opposite in thought. Now, okay, now see, the author was guilty of making the scientist speak as it took a lot of effort for him to tap on his little switch and find words in his computer. Now see here, what did the author say? The author told that he finds it guilty, उसे बुरा लग रहा था, of making the scientist speak. Who is the scientist? Stephen Hawking. Okay, so he said that he finds it guilty to make the scientist speak because it took a lot of effort for him. Okay, it was taking a lot of effort for him. Why? Because he was unable to speak well. Okay, because he was differently abled person. Stephen Hawking was a differently abled man, so he couldn't speak. So his chair was a computerized chair, and on his arms, okay, on the arms of the chair, there were buttons. Okay, there were keys just like our monitor. Okay, monitor and keyboard, just like our computer. As our computer has keys and keyboard, in the same way Stephen Hawking chair's arm also have got different keyboards where different buttons are over there, and when he pressed those buttons, the words speak for him. Okay, now see here, let me tell you. In our computer, what do? We just press the button A L P H A B E T. Then on the screen, what can we see on the monitor? We can see the word A L P H A B E T, alphabet. Okay, so in the same way, even Stephen Hawking, he have to press the button on his chair. Okay, like suppose if he have to say, I am fine, thank you, then what would he do? He would press I, A M M, F I N E, fine, T H A N K Y O U, thank you. Okay, or it may be completely one word, I, A M M, F I N E, fine, T H A N K Y O U, thank you. These are the button. So he have to press I am fine, thank you, and the computer would speak for him. Clear? Okay, so this is what the author says, that when I asked him some question and he has to reply back, at that time he had to take a lot of effort in pressing those buttons, and this makes the author feel guilty. That means this makes the author feel bad. Clear now? Next. Okay. He was a man with a bright mind, but his computerized voice made his thoughts come out as frozen phrases. So, he said that, the author said that scientist was a man with bright mind. Okay, his mind was very bright, but his computerized voice means the voice which his chair speaks for him, made his thoughts come out as frozen phrases. Okay, that means the words which the chair speaks was not very clear and was not very strong, just like we speak. When we speak, we can speak very fluently, or we can express our views very comfortably, whereas the computer, when they speak, it doesn't sound so good to the ear, and the author feels that his thoughts come out just like frozen phrases, because it is not he who speaks, but the computerized chair. Clear now? Next, Stephen mentions that he finds it amusing when people patronize him. Okay, he said that, 1 minute. He said that Stephen mentioned that he finds it amusing, he finds it very good when people patronize him, okay, when people respect him. The writer then gives a description of Hawking as to how he looks like a three-dimensional version of all his photographs in magazines. Okay, see here it is written Hawking, Hawkins, and here it is Hawking. Yes, here is Hawking and here is Hawkins. Okay, fine. Now see. Now, the writer then gives a description of Hawkins as to how he looks like a three-dimensional version of all his photographs in magazines. Okay, this is what he means to tell. He means to tell that when he had seen his pictures in magazine, he feels like it is the 3D version of Stephen Hawking. Okay, 3D version means, the 3D means three-dimensional, or three-dimensional is also called 3D version. Okay, so here 3D version, I hope you all know what is 3D version. Let me clarify you. 3D dimensional version means when we capture, here we are talking about photographs. Okay, so when we capture the image in a 3D camera, then it makes us look, or it seems to appear as if an original man is standing right before our eyes. This is what called the three-dimensional version photographs. Okay, it seems like it is completely the person standing in front of us. Okay, that means highly qualified camera. Good? Okay. So he told that whenever he had seen his photograph in magazine, he felt like Stephen Hawking is right in front of him. First impression of his appearance is shocking, but he is the embodiment of inner glow in a man. Okay. So when he first saw his appearance, he was totally shocked. Right? But he is embodiment of inner glow in a man. But Stephen Hawking is really an embodiment of inner glow in a man. That means you can say that the one on whom we can totally believe on. Clear? Okay. Now, he made the author believe in eternal soul and that everything else is just an accessory. Okay, now Stephen Hawking, he made the author believe in eternal soul. Eternal soul means the soul which never dies. He made the author believe in eternal souls and that everything else is just an accessory. Accessory means cheeze, saman. Okay, so he said that it is only our soul which is eternal and the rest everything would soon fade out. That means it would soon die. That means when a person dies, he leaves his body, and what goes with him is only his soul. So he means to tell that the soul must be very pure because it is eternal. It will remain with us forever, whereas our body and even the world, whatever we collect like money or luxuries or pleasures, whatever we collect in this life will all be faded away soon, because one day when we die we will leave everything behind, but what we carry out with us is only our soul, our eternal soul. That means it will remain with us forever. Clear? Next. Hawking thinks there is nothing good about being disabled, but the writer is of the view that it makes you realize the existence of kindness in the world. Okay, here Hawking thinks that there is nothing good about being disabled. That means if you are disabled, there is nothing good in it. But the writer is of the view, that means the writer is of the thinking that it makes you realize, it will make you feel the existence. Existence means maujudi, the existence of kindness in the world. Further, upon being asked, जब पूछा गया था, ठीक है, और पूछने के बाद ये पता चला, if he inspire a lot of people makes it any better for Stephen, he answered that it doesn't. Okay, and when he was being asked, he asked that if he inspire a lot of people, it makes any better for Stephen. Stephen answered that it doesn't make any better. ठीक है, उसे कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. For someone whose body is like a claustrophobic room. 1 minute. Yes. Now let me explain you. For someone whose body is like a claustrophobic room. Now see, what is claustrophobic? Claustrophobic means, if you say claustrophobia, claustrophobia means a fear of getting narrower day by day. That is called claustrophobia. Okay. Now see here. In Hindi, we can call it घुटन. Okay, घुटन सा महसूस होना. That means you will feel that you are being pressurized day by day. Like you can say you are locked in a room and you cannot go out. Then what would you feel? You would feel that this room, even this bigger room, is becoming smaller day by day. Okay, this is what called claustrophobic. Fine. Okay. So he said that for someone whose body is like a claustrophobic room, whose walls are getting narrower day by day, it doesn't make much of a difference. So Stephen Hawking feels that his body is like a claustrophobic room. So it doesn't make any difference whether he is being inspired and people likes him or whatever. Okay, that means he is quite depressed in one sense if you talk about. Next, the only advice Okay. The only advice Stephen had to offer to differently abled people is only to focus on things they are good at. So, what had Stephen advised? His advice was that we differently abled people must focus on those things we are good at. He said that common people can focus on anything and everything, whereas we differently able people cannot focus on everything because we are unable to perform. So, we must focus only on those things we are good at. Like suppose if we talk about a lame man, lame means langra. Okay? So, if we try to run, it would be very difficult for him to run. Why? Because he is differently abled. He is not able to run, he is not able to walk. So, it will be very difficult for him to run. He can try, okay? It is not that he can never, he can try, but it will be very difficult for him. So, if that man, that lame man, if he has a good imagination, then what can he do? He can put his imagination into words and become a writer. So, this is what Stephen Hawking said. He told that differently abled person must focus only on those things in which they are good at. Fine. The half here, after talking, the half an hour came to an end. Okay, and it was time for the writer to leave. Writer means Firdaus Kanga. Okay, for the author to leave. So now half an hour passed by, and it was the time for the writer to go away. But the scientist made him stay. That means the scientist liked the conversation with Firdaus Kanga so much that he pleaded him to wait for another few more minutes. Clear? After that, he offered the writer tea and a tour of his garden. And then the writer or the author was offered a cup of tea and snacks, and then a tour of his garden. He said, "Chalo, come on, let's come with me, let's have a walk of the garden." His garden was as big as a park, but Stephen covered every inch of it in his wheelchair while the writer dodged himself out of his way. Okay. So, here the garden of Stephen Hawking was as big as a park. Okay. That means it was his garden, but for common people it can be a park. That means his garden was really very, very big. It was really very, very beautiful, because we all know Stephen Hawking was a great scientist, okay, and he was having a lot of money. He can do anything in his life. When a person can have a computerized voice chair, what can he not have in this world? Okay, so he was really very rich, and his garden was as big as a park. But Stephen covered every inch of it in his wheelchair. That means he was unable to walk, and he covered every inch of it in his wheelchair. That means वो एक कोने से दूसरे कोने में कहीं भी वो जाता था, वो wheelchair में ही जाता था. That means he was completely unable to walk. While the writer dodged himself out of his way. Okay, while the writer dodged himself out of his way means the scientist was unable to walk, whereas the writer, he did not try to show that he could see that he is unable to walk. Actually, both of them, they are unable to walk. Okay, and when it happens that we are good at hurt, we never try to show others weakness, even though we feel we can understand that the other person is lacking in that particular thing, but we never try to express, we never try to show that we have understood your difficulties, or I mean your shortcomings, not difficulties, your shortcomings. Okay, आप में ये खामियां हैं, हमें पता चल गया, पर हम दिखाते नहीं हैं क्योंकि हम अच्छे लोग हैं, मतलब हम दिल से, हर्ट से हम काइंड हैं. Okay, that means we are not foolish, not stupid people. So in the same way, Stephen Hawking, he covered every inch of his garden in his wheelchair, and even the writer also, he covered every inch on a wheelchair, but they didn't try to bother about the shortcomings of one another. And now they did not talk much in the sun. It was hot sun, okay, afternoon. 3:30, 4, 4:30 is still very hot. It is to be scorching heat, we can say. Okay, so they did not talk much in the sun because they were out in the garden. So when it was time to leave, the author touched his shoulder and wheeled out. Then when it was time to leave, the author, he touched the shoulder of the scientist and wheeled out. Wheeled out means chakka chala ke chala gaya. Okay, and wheeled out. As he looked back, he could see the embodiment of where it is. Sorry, yes. Okay. And as he turned back, he could see the embodiment. He could see an embodiment of his bravest self, the one he was moving towards and the one he had believed in for so many years. Okay. So now Mr. Kanga had moved from Stephen Hawking's place, okay, from Stephen Hawking's residence, bidding him goodbye, and he turned back after a while. He turned back. When he turned back, he could see the embodiment. Embodiment means जैसे कि हिंदी में बोलते हैं साक्षात. Okay, that means form, the complete form, the real image. Okay, sakshat. So he could see an embodiment of his bravest self, the one he was moving towards and the one he had believed in for so many years. That means Stephen Hawking was having a very very good qualities, and he was moving towards the ideas and towards the thoughts of Stephen Hawking, and the one he had always believed in for so many years. He was really having a full faith on Stephen Hawking. He was really respecting him. He was having full belief in him, and he could find totally in him. मतलब जैसा उसने सोचा था उसे वैसा ही पाया था. Clear to everybody? So here ends the chapter. Right? I hope you enjoyed the chapter. Yes? Okay. Thank you for watching.